Jonathan Joss, best known for voicing John Redcorn on King of the Hill, was shot and killed on Sunday at the age of 55 in San Antonio, Texas. Police found Joss near a roadway with multiple gunshot wounds and pronounced him dead at the scene. His husband confirmed the death and said Joss saved his life by pushing him out of the way during the shooting. The suspect, Sigfredo Alvarez Ceja, 58, a neighbor with whom Joss had an ongoing feud, was arrested and charged with murder, CBS News has reported. Joss had recently recorded episodes for the upcoming King of the Hill revival, set to air on Hulu in August. Germany's former foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock, has been elected president of the UN General Assembly, winning 167 votes in a secret ballot requested by Russia. She will begin her one-year term in September, succeeding Philemon Yang of Cameroon. Baerbock's nomination faced criticism from Russia and some in Germany after she replaced the original nominee, Helga Schmid. Despite opposition, Baerbock emphasized unity under the theme, quote, "Better Together," and pledged to address global challenges including war, climate change, and inequality, the Associated Press has reported. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for global cooperation amid growing crises and division. President Trump declared that the United States would not allow Iran to enrich uranium under a potential nuclear deal, contradicting a recent proposal made by his envoy Steve Witkoff. According to Axios, the United States offer would permit limited low-level enrichment for a set period and does not require dismantling Iran's nuclear facilities. Despite Trump's firm public stance, the proposal signals possible flexibility. Iran insists on enrichment rights for civilian use and is seeking clarity on U.S. sanctions relief, Axios has reported. The White House declined to comment on the proposal's specifics, citing ongoing negotiations. A U.S. district judge dismissed California's lawsuit challenging President Trump's tariffs, ruling the case belongs in the U.S. Court of International Trade. While the decision sides partially with the Trump administration, the judge allowed California to appeal to the Ninth Circuit instead of transferring the case. The ruling is a procedural setback for California's Governor Gavin Newsom and Attorney General Bonta, who argued Trump lacked authority to impose tariffs under emergency powers. Despite this, California officials highlighted recent favorable rulings in other courts that struck down similar Trump tariffs, Politico has reported. The state has already appealed the decision. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is coordinating with House Democrats to resist Senate Republicans' push to pass President Trump's sweeping policy agenda through budget reconciliation, which bypasses Democratic input. In a letter to Senate Democrats, Schumer outlined a strategy to expose GOP divisions and slow the process, calling the bill an attack on working families and democracy. Republicans aim to make Trump's tax cuts permanent and seek deeper spending cuts, while Democrats plan to challenge provisions they say violate Senate rules, Fox News has reported. Schumer urged continued public opposition, labeling the bill, quote, "one ugly bill." Senators are ramping up efforts to pass a tough Russia sanctions bill that would impose 500% tariffs on countries buying Russian energy. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, after visiting Kyiv with Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal, announced that the Senate could begin advancing the bill this week. The legislation, backed by around 80 bipartisan co-sponsors, aims to isolate Russia economically and pressure President Putin to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky urged President Trump to support the sanctions, ABC News has reported. Lawmakers from both parties have voiced strong support, emphasizing the need to cut off funding for Russia's war through energy sales, especially to China and India. Asia-Pacific markets were mixed Tuesday after a private survey showed China's manufacturing activity in May shrank at its fastest pace since September of 2022, with the PMI falling to 48.3 amid weak export orders linked to U.S. tariffs. China blamed the United States for failing to uphold a trade agreement, further straining relations. The EU also criticized President Trump's plan to double U.S. steel tariffs, CNBC has reported. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 1.13%, while in Japan it traded flat and Australia gained 0.48%. India's markets were mostly flat and South Korea's markets were closed for polling. U.S. stock indexes edged closer to record highs on Monday, following a strong May performance. The S&P 500 rose 0.4%, the Dow gained 0.1%, and the Nasdaq climbed 0.7%. Early losses tied to weak U.S. manufacturing data and tariff concerns were offset by rallies in key tech stocks like Nvidia and Meta. Oil prices surged over 3% amid OPEC output news and Ukraine-Russia conflict uncertainty. President Trump's escalating tariffs, including a steel import tariff hike to 50%, boosted steelmaker stocks but hurt automakers. Meanwhile, rising Treasury yields reflected ongoing deficit concerns, the Associated Press has reported. Trade tensions with China also weighed on global markets. Dave's Hot Chicken has been acquired by private equity firm Roark Capital in a $1 billion deal. Founded back in 2017 as a Los Angeles parking lot pop-up, the Nashville-style chicken chain now expects to reach 400 locations by year's end. Backed by celebrity investor Drake, the brand will retain its leadership team post-acquisition, the Associated Press has reported. Roark, which also owns Subway and supports chains like Arby's and Dunkin's through its holdings, specializes in franchised businesses. Russia is reportedly using a Chinese-made laser system to shoot down Ukrainian drones. This is according to pro-Russian Telegram channels. A video shared online shows a vehicle-mounted system that resembles China's anti-drone laser, also previously seen in Iran. Though unconfirmed, the system appears to be effective, with footage showing drones catching fire midair and wreckage displaying burn marks. Experts suggest it may be the low-altitude laser defending system developed by the Chinese Academy of Engineering Physics, TWZ has reported. This development highlights growing military ties between China, Russia, and Iran, as laser weapons gain traction globally, including recent Israeli use of its Iron Beam system. Japanese company iSpace is set to attempt a historic moon landing on Thursday, June the 5th. Its Resilience lunar lander will try to touch down on the moon. A successful landing would mark a major achievement for Japan and commercial spaceflight, following iSpace's failed attempt back in 2023. If successful, Resilience will deploy a small rover named Tenacious and conduct scientific research, Space.com has reported. The spacecraft launched on January the 15th via SpaceX and has taken a fuel-efficient path to lunar orbit, where it's now circling the moon every 2 hours in preparation for its landing. NATO is urging its European members to increase ground-based air defense capabilities five-fold in response to rising threats from Russia. This is according to sources familiar with the matter. This proposal will be discussed at a defense ministers' meeting in Brussels and is part of broader efforts to rebuild weapon stockpiles and reduce reliance on U.S. defense systems. NATO leaders aim to boost defense spending to 5% of GDP and achieve full war-fighting readiness amid growing threats from advanced drones, missiles, and jets, Bloomberg has reported. The plan will help shape decisions at a major summit in The Hague later in June. Sarah Ashton Cirillo, a 47-year-old transgender U.S. journalist turned Ukrainian military medic, has been sentenced in absentia by Russia to 20 years in a penal colony. Russia accused her of spreading false information and acting as a mercenary. Labeled a terrorist by the Kremlin, Ashton Cirillo has been outspoken against Russia's actions and treatment of LGBTQ individuals. Her past claims included allegations of Russian biological and chemical weapon use. U.S. officials have questioned her citizenship and military role, the Irish Star has reported. Despite initial concerns, She described Ukraine as welcoming and supportive of freedom. Aid distribution centers in Gaza will shut down for a day on Wednesday as Israel declares surrounding roads, quote, combat zones. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a U.S. and Israeli backed group replacing UN led aid, cited organizational updates as the reason for the closure. This follows a deadly incident where 27 Palestinians were killed near a GHF site, the third such event in days. Critics, including the United Nations, say GHF's model endangers civilians by requiring long, risky journeys for aid, the BBC has reported. The UN has called for an independent investigation, warning that over 2 million Gazans face starvation. For the first time, the U.S. Defense Secretary will not attend the Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting, signaling a shift in America's role in supporting Ukraine. Pete Hegseth will miss the gathering of over 50 defense leaders in Brussels on Wednesday and will not participate virtually. This move follows a series of U.S. actions distancing itself from the Ukraine war effort, including halting new military aid. Hegseth has handed leadership of the group to Germany and the United Kingdom, and previously urged Ukraine to abandon its NATO bid, the Associated Press has reported. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are in Washington for defense and recovery talks. Over 200 inmates escaped from a prison in Pakistan after a series of mild earthquakes triggered panic on Monday. The inmates attempted to flee while being relocated for safety. So far, 80 have been recaptured, and efforts continue to find the remaining 136. One inmate died, and 22 people were injured during the chaos. Most escapees face minor charges. Authorities have warned of strict consequences for those who don't return within 24 hours. An investigation is underway, NBC News has reported. Prison breaks are rare in Pakistan, especially since security was tightened after a major jailbreak back in 2013. Two Chinese nationals, Yun Qingjian and Zunyang Lu, have been charged with smuggling a dangerous agricultural fungus into the United States, which authorities classify as a potential agro-terrorism weapon. The pair, allegedly funded by the Chinese government, were conducting research at the University of Michigan. Liu admitted to hiding the fungus in his luggage to avoid detection at Detroit Metropolitan Airport. John is also accused of being a loyal member of the Chinese Communist Party, ABC News has reported. The FBI and the DOJ consider the case a serious national security threat, while the University of Michigan has condemned the actions and is cooperating with the investigation. Mohammed Suleiman, an Egyptian national accused of firebombing a pro-Israel rally in Boulder, Colorado, has been charged with attempted murder and assault after injuring 12 people, including elderly civilians. He reportedly shouted "Free Palestine" while attacking demonstrators with a Molotov cocktail and a flamethrower. U.S. authorities arrested Solomon's wife and 5 children, investigating whether they had prior knowledge of the attack. Solomon had overstayed a tourist visa and previously worked as an Uber driver. Officials say he planned the attack for over a year, the U.S. Sun has reported. The incident has sparked renewed concerns over rising anti-Semitic violence in the United States. 3 young sisters in Washington state were found dead after going missing during a scheduled visitation with their father, Travis Decker. Their father's vehicle was found abandoned near Rock Island Campground, but he remains missing and is wanted for 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of kidnapping. Authorities warn that Decker, a former military member, may be armed and dangerous, ABC News has reported. The search is ongoing, and police urge anyone with information to call 911. Judge Beverly Canone denied a mistrial request from Karen Reed's defense during her second murder trial for the death of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. The defense sought a mistrial after prosecutors, for the first time, introduced O'Keefe's sweater and questioned a defense expert about the absence of dog DNA on it, challenging the defense's claim that dog bites caused injuries on O'Keefe's arm. Prosecutors allege that Reed hit O'Keefe with her car and left him to die during a blizzard in 2022. Reed denies the charges. The defense argued the DNA topic was unfairly introduced late and urged a mistrial, but the judge allowed questioning to continue, ABC News has reported. The expert maintained that lack of dog DNA does not disprove dog bites due to testing delays and chain of custody issues. South Korea's opposition leader, Lee Jae-myung, won a snap presidential election with 49.42% of the vote, defeating the conservative Kim Moon-soo. Lee will be sworn in immediately, skipping the usual transition period, following the impeachment of former President Yoon Suk-yeol over a failed martial law attempt. Lee, from the Democratic Party, faces key challenges, including reviving the economy and managing U.S. trade negotiations. Though he campaigned toward the center, analysts expect a left-leaning agenda. The election boosted South Korea's stock market and currency, CNBC has reported. Lee plans to form a new cabinet quickly and pursue expansionary fiscal policies while balancing U.S. relations amid security and trade tensions. The Netherlands will hold new elections after Prime Minister Dick Schuff's coalition government collapsed when far-right leader Geert Wilders withdrew his party of Freedom ministers over disputes on migration policy. Now, Wilders demanded stricter asylum controls, including border closures and deportations, which coalition partners rejected. Schuff's government will continue in a caretaker role, but a snap election is expected in several months. The collapse comes just weeks before the Netherlands host a NATO summit, complicating security commitments. Opposition leaders say new elections are needed to form a stable government, while coalition partners criticized Wilders for irresponsibility, the DW has reported. Wilders' PVV remains a major political force, reflecting ongoing voter concern over immigration and economic issues. Mongolia's prime minister resigned after failing a parliamentary vote of confidence, receiving only 44 votes out of the 64 needed. The vote followed protests sparked by reports of lavish spending by his son and public dissatisfaction. The prime minister, who had been in office for 4 years, warned that political instability could threaten Mongolia's young democracy. The country, transitioning from its communist past, faces challenges balancing economic issues and democratic reforms amid widespread poverty and frustration over unequal benefits from mineral wealth, NBC News has reported. Observers say democracy is still taking root in Mongolia, despite ongoing struggles. The White House has asked Congress to rescind $9.4 billion in previously approved spending, targeting programs criticized by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, for promoting liberal agendas. This rescission requires congressional approval and, if passed, would cement many of DOGE's proposed cuts amid Musk's strong opposition to the current tax and spending plan, which he called a, quote, disgusting abomination for worsening the federal deficit. White House Budget Director Russ Vought indicated that spending cuts would follow if Congress agrees, the Associated Press has reported. Citigroup has ended a 7-year policy restricting banking services to firearm manufacturers and sellers, originally put in place after the 2018 Parkland shooting to promote responsible sales practices. The bank said many clients now follow these practices, and it will no longer maintain a specific firearms-related policy. The decision drew criticism from gun control advocates, while White House officials praised it as supporting law-abiding gun owners. Citi also updated its policies to explicitly prohibit discrimination based on political affiliation, amid broader debates over so-called debanking of conservatives, NBC News has reported. Banking leaders emphasize account closures are based on regulatory compliance and not politics. Dollar General's shares surged nearly 16% after it raised its sales and earnings outlook, driven by increased spending from middle and higher income shoppers amid tariff fears. The retailer beat expectations for revenue and earnings in the first quarter, with net sales now expected to grow 3.7% to 4.7%. CEO Todd Vasos said the company reduced its reliance on China to minimize tariff impacts and has seen more customers across income levels seeking value. Despite slight drops in foot traffic, average transaction size rose, CNBC has reported. Dollar General also expanded its merchandise and delivery services, while its pop shelf stores targeting higher income shoppers showed strong growth. President Trump sharply criticized Senator Rand Paul after Paul opposed the Trump backed budget bill's $5 trillion debt ceiling increase. Paul called the hike irresponsible and said he would not support it, though he supports the tax cuts and spending cuts in the bill. President Trump accused Paul of misunderstanding the plan and labeled him as a habitual no voter with no practical ideas, urging Republicans to back the bill. The budget package, key to Trump's agenda, includes tax cuts, work requirements for Medicaid, and SNAP reforms, CNBC has reported. The Senate's bill's debt ceiling hike faces opposition from several Republicans, with Paul saying he might support the bill if the debt increase is reduced. The Federal Reserve has lifted the $1.95 trillion asset cap on Wells Fargo, imposed after a 2016 fake account scandal. This marks a major milestone for the CEO Charles Scharf, who has focused on cleaning up past issues since 2019. The removal reflects the bank's progress in addressing regulatory concerns and allows Wells Fargo to pursue growth, especially in investment banking. While the asset cap is gone, other regulatory restrictions remain, and the bank continues to face oversight for compliance issues, Yahoo Finance has reported. Regulators emphasize that ongoing management and supervision will be crucial for sustained improvement. Researchers have developed a technique that uses light-sensitive molecules to control bacterial functions without genetic modification. Their EOS project enables bacteria to sense light and convert it into electrical signals that influence key processes like movement, biofilm formation, and antibiotic sensitivity. This method can affect how bacteria absorbs antibiotics, potentially improving treatment against resistant strains. For example, exposure to blue light altered the effectiveness of antibiotics, Phys.org has reported. Now, this breakthrough could lead to new therapies and light-guided bacterial robots for targeted drug delivery. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has discovered crystalline water ice in the debris disk around HD 181-327, which is a young sun-like star 155 light-years away. This finding supports the theory that water existed in the early solar system's outer regions and played a key role in planet formation. The water ice, mostly found in the disk's outer ring as dirty snowballs, which is ice mixed with dust, decreases closer to the star due to vaporization, NDTV has reported. This discovery was made possible by Webb's advanced instruments, and it offers new insights into how planets and water may have formed in our early solar system. The Trump administration has redirected a key anti-drone technology, proximity fuses, originally intended for Ukraine, to the U.S. Air Force units in the Middle East, signaling a shift in Pentagon priorities away from Kyiv. This decision, justified as an urgent defense need, comes amid growing tensions with Iran and Houthi militants. Critics warned the move weakens Ukraine's air defenses against Russian drones, while supporters argue it falls within emergency spending powers, the Wall Street Journal has reported. The Pentagon has not clarified the full impact on Ukraine, raising concerns among lawmakers about U.S. commitment to Ukraine's war effort. Aaron Patterson, on trial for allegedly poisoning 4 in-laws with death cap mushrooms in a 2023 lunch, has denied deliberately foraging or weighing the mushrooms to calculate fatal doses. However, she admitted lying to police early in the investigation out of fear. During cross-examination, prosecutors presented photos allegedly showing death cap mushrooms on scales in her home, which Patterson acknowledged taking but denied using to measure lethal amounts. She faces 3 murder charges and 1 attempted murder charge, The Guardian has reported. The trial has been extended by at least 2 weeks as her testimony continues. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has rejected a U.S. proposal that would allow limited uranium enrichment in Iran before phasing it out, calling it a violation of Iran's independence. The move complicates ongoing nuclear talks, with Washington now reassessing its approach. The United States' offer included dismantling Iran's underground enrichment sites in exchange for allowing a regional consortium to oversee future enrichment. Iran insists on maintaining control of enrichment within its borders, the Wall Street Journal has reported. Tensions are rising as Iran continues to expand its uranium stockpile, and Western powers prepare to formally accuse Tehran of violating nuclear safeguards, potentially triggering UN action. A federal judge has temporarily halted the deportation of the wife and 5 children of Mohammed Solomon, who is the Egyptian man charged in the recent Molotov cocktail attack in Boulder, Colorado. The judge ruled that deporting the family without due process could cause, quote, irreparable harm, while their appeal is pending. The family, who has not been charged with any crimes, were taken into custody for overstaying their visas. The White House criticized the ruling, calling it a threat to national security, while the Department of Homeland Security officials said that the family is rightfully in custody for removal, Axios has reported. The attack injured 15 people and a dog. Federal authorities have arrested Daniel Park, 32, of Washington State, for allegedly aiding the bomber of a California fertility clinic by supplying chemicals and helping test explosives. Park and the bomber, Guy Edward Bartkus, who died in the May 17th blast, shared anti-procreation beliefs and connected through fringe online forums. The bombing, labeled a terrorist act, caused major damage but no casualties. Park, who fled to Poland after the attack, was extradited and arrested at JFK Airport, the Associated Press has reported. He faces charges of providing material support to terrorists and will be transferred to California for further proceedings. The Trump administration has escalated its conflict with Columbia University, accusing the school of failing to protect Jewish students and declaring it may no longer meet accreditation standards. The U.S. Department of Education notified the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, citing Columbia's alleged violation of Title IV of the Civil Rights Act after the October 7th Hamas attack. Losing accreditation could threaten federal funding and student aid. Columbia responded that it is addressing the concerns and is committed to combating anti-Semitism, CNN has reported. This move is part of a broader federal crackdown on universities accused of tolerating anti-Semitism. European auto industry groups are raising alarms over a rare earth shortage triggered by China's recent export restrictions. The curbs, imposed in response to U.S. tariffs, have already caused shutdowns at several European supplier plants, with more disruptions expected as inventories run low. Rare earths are essential for both combustion and electric vehicles, and only about 25% of export license applications have been approved by China. Germany's auto industry warns that continued delays and customs bottlenecks could halt production, CNBC has reported. Industry leaders are urging EU officials to address the issue urgently as global demand for rare earths continue to rise. The body of a climber, Alex Chu, 41, was found 2 days after he fell about 3,000 feet while ascending Mount McKinley in Alaska, the National Park Service has confirmed. Chu was climbing the West Buttressed route with 2 others on Monday when he fell at a spot called Squirrel Point. His teammates were unable to locate him and descended for help. Bad weather delayed recovery efforts until Wednesday. Chu is one of several climbers who have died along this route since 1980, CBS News has reported. The incident occurred during the peak of Denali's climbing season. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer is expanding his investigation into alleged cover-up of former President Joe Biden's mental decline by seeking interviews with 5 additional former White House aides, bringing the total to 10. Comer sent letters requesting closed-door testimony from Ron Klain, Anita Dunn, Michael Donlian, and Steve Ricchetti, and Bruce Reed. He claims these former aides may have witnessed or played a role in concealing Biden's condition or making executive decisions on his behalf, Fox News has reported. Comer says the investigation aims to determine if staffers usurped presidential authority and warns subpoenas may follow if witnesses do not comply. The FDA has escalated a tomato recall in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina to a Class 1 warning, its most serious level, due to possible salmonella contamination. The recall, initiated by Williams Farms Repack LLC, affects tomatoes distributed between April the 23rd and the 28th. Although no illnesses have been reported, consumers are urged to return or discard the tomatoes, The Guardian has reported. Salmonella can cause severe gastrointestinal symptoms and poses the greatest risk to young children, the elderly, and those with weakened immune systems. Former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has announced that she is leaving the Democratic Party and will release a book in October titled Independent, A Look Inside a Broken White House Outside the Party Lines. Jean-Pierre said that she made the decision after stepping down in January, believing the country needs to move beyond party labels to face future challenges. Her announcement follows the release of a controversial book detailing President Biden's decline during his presidency, Mediaite has reported. Kimberly-Clark is selling its Kleenex and tissue business outside North America to Brazilian company Suzano for about $3.5 billion, shifting focus to more profitable areas. The deal boosts Suzano's global tissue market presence. Analysts give Kimberly-Clark an average price target of about $144.13 per share, indicating a modest 4.12% upside from its current price of $138.43 per share. Brokerage firms rate the stock a hold, with an average recommendation of 2.8. Guru Focus, a website, estimates its value at $131.94 per share, suggesting a potential downside, Guru Focus has reported. Investors are advised to weigh both forecast and valuations when evaluating the stock. President Trump has called for the U.S. debt ceiling to be permanently abolished, aligning for the first time with Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren on the issue. President Trump posted on Truth Social, urging bipartisan action to scrape the limit, calling it a dangerous political tool that could lead to economic catastrophe. Warren recently echoed similar views, and President Trump shared her comments, saying he agrees with her stance, though they haven't spoken directly, The Hill has reported. The push comes as the Treasury warns of a potential default by mid-July without action, with Trump advocating for a $4 trillion increase in the debt ceiling as part of a broader bill. President Trump has ordered an investigation into former President Joe Biden's use of the auto pen to sign official documents, alleging that it may have masked a decline in Biden's cognitive health and calling some of his actions potentially illegitimate. President Trump claims that aides may have wielded executive power in Biden's name, including issuing pardons for his siblings and political allies. President Biden strongly denied the accusations, asserting all decisions were his. House Republicans, led by Representative James Comer, are also investigating, seeking testimony from top Biden aides, the Associated Press has reported. Democrats have dismissed the probe as a political stunt, following Biden's withdrawal from the 2024 race after a widely criticized debate performance. President Trump said he spoke with Russian President Putin for over an hour on Wednesday, discussing Ukraine's recent airstrike on Russian bombers and nuclear talks with Iran. Trump said that Putin vowed retaliation against Ukraine, but did not indicate whether he urged restraint. They also talked about preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, with Putin expressing willingness to assist in negotiations. Trump noted that Iran is delaying its decision and warned that time is running out, CNBC has reported. Despite his campaign promise to quickly end the Russia-Ukraine war, peace remains elusive, and President Trump's stance on Putin has recently grown more critical. Researchers using artificial intelligence and improved radiocarbon dating techniques suggest that many Dead Sea Scrolls may be older than previously thought, with some biblical texts possibly dating from the time of their original authors. By removing contamination from earlier tests and analyzing handwriting styles, the team found that different scripts coexisted longer than believed, and certain texts, like parts of Daniel and Ecclesiastes, align more closely with their traditional dates of authorship. They developed an AI model called Enoch that accurately estimates scroll ages from ink images, offering a non destructive way to date over 1,000 manuscripts, The Guardian has reported. Experts say these findings challenge long held ideas about where and when the scrolls were written, though some caution that results could be combined with other evidence for full understanding. Astronomers have discovered a gas giant planet orbiting the tiny red dwarf star TOI 6894, the smallest star known to host such a large planet. The planet, slightly larger than Saturn, but only half its mass, orbits the star every 3 days. This challenges existing theories of planet formation, as small stars like TOI 6894 were not thought capable of hosting massive planets due to limited material in their protoplanetary disks. Unlike typical hot gas giants, this planet is unusually cold, below 150 degrees Celsius, making it a unique target for atmospheric study, including potential ammonia detection, the AFP has reported. The James Webb Space Telescope will observe the planet soon to help unravel its mysteries. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, mistakenly deported to El Salvador during the Trump administration, was returned to the United States on Friday to face federal charges related to a human smuggling operation. His deportation had sparked a legal and political standoff after officials admitted it was an error but resisted court orders to bring him back. U.S. authorities presented an arrest warrant to El Salvador's president, leading to Abrego Garcia's return for prosecution in Tennessee. And while officials claim he played a key role in smuggling immigrants, his lawyers called the case baseless. He will remain in custody until a hearing next week, the Associated Press has reported. The case also led to the resignation of a top federal prosecutor. Israel has recovered the body of a Thai national who was taken hostage during the Hamas-led attack on October the 7th, 2023. The 35-year-old agricultural worker was likely killed early in his captivity, and his body was retrieved in a special operation in Rafah, Gaza. He is believed to be the last Thai hostage from the attack, during which 1,200 people were killed and 251 abducted. The operation follows the recent recovery of 2 Israeli-American hostages' bodies. Meanwhile, 6 Palestinians were killed near a U.S.-backed aid center in Gaza, where ongoing clashes and overcrowding have disrupted humanitarian efforts, the BBC has reported. Over 54,000 people have died in Gaza since the conflict began. Russia launched massive strikes on Ukraine's second-largest city, Kharkiv, early Saturday, killing at least 3 people and injuring several others in what Ukrainian officials call the most intense attack since the war began. The assault, involving over 50 drones, missiles, and bombs, followed a large-scale Russian aerial offensive that appears to be retaliation for a Ukrainian drone operation that damaged key Russian missile carriers. Russia claimed it targeted military sites, but civilian areas were heavily hit. Meanwhile, tensions rose as Russia accused Ukraine of delaying a prisoner exchange and the repatriation of soldiers' bodies, CNN has reported. Ukraine also reported downing a Russian Su-35 fighter jet. Grant Hardin, a convicted murderer and former police chief dubbed the Devil in the Ozarks, was captured Friday just a mile and a half from the Arkansas prison that he escaped nearly 2 weeks earlier. Hardin, who had been serving time for murder and rape, fled by impersonating a corrections officer. A massive manhunt involving drones, helicopters, bloodhounds, and a U.S. Border Patrol tactical team tracked him through the rugged terrain. Authorities say Hardin was exhausted and offered little resistance during his arrest, NPR has reported. An investigation is underway into the prison's failure to verify his identity during the escape. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that Israel is arming anti-Hamas militias in southern Gaza, a move he defended as a way to protect Israeli soldiers. The revelation follows a leak by former defense minister and has sparked political backlash within Israel. Meanwhile, Gaza faces worsening humanitarian conditions, with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation halting aid distribution due to security concerns and deadly incidents at food centers, ABC News has reported. The region remains under threat of famine, and despite a partial lifting of an 11-week Israeli blockade, chaos and gunfire have plagued relief efforts, with the Red Cross responding to multiple mass casualty events. Federal immigration agents conducted raids at 3 locations in central Los Angeles on Friday, arresting 44 people and drawing strong backlash from local leaders. Protesters clashed with agents, and SEIU California President David Huerta was arrested for allegedly obstructing law enforcement. Officials say the raids targeted fake employee documents at businesses like Ambience Apparel. California Governor Gavin Newsom, LA Mayor Karen Bass, and multiple city council members condemned the actions as cruel and politically motivated. Local law enforcement emphasized they were not involved, NBC News has reported. Protesters gathered downtown, decrying the raids as an attack on immigrant communities and workers. The Wagner Group has announced its withdrawal from Mali, claiming it has completed its mission of fighting Islamist militants alongside the Malan military since 2021. The exit coincides with renewed jihadist attacks in the region, including deadly assaults on military bases. Despite Wagner's departure, Russia will maintain a presence in Mali through its Africa Corps, a rival mercenary group. Wagner's exit raises questions about its effectiveness, as Mali continues to face a worsening insurgency, the BBC has reported. The group did not clarify it will also leave the Central African Republic, where its African headquarters are based. A fistfight at a Michigan high school graduation ceremony nearly escalated into a mass shooting, officials said. 2 suspects, ages 19 and 20, both with weapons-related criminal histories, were taken into custody after a threat to, quote, shoot up the crowd was posted on Snapchat and quickly removed. Authorities recovered 2 fully loaded firearms, with 80 rounds combined from the suspects' packages stashed under cars at the event. The fight inside the venue was quickly controlled by staff and no one was harmed, NBC News has reported. The motive remains unclear, and the investigations continue. FBI Director Kash Patel revealed on the Joe Rogan Experience that federal agents have recovered a cell phone and hard drives used by Dr. Anthony Fauci during the COVID-19 pandemic. The devices could shed light on key decisions regarding lockdowns, masks, and connections to the Wuhan lab. Patel called the discovery a major step in the ongoing investigation into the pandemic's origins, though details on how the devices were found and verified remain unclear. Fauci has denied all accusations of a cover-up, but critics argue he downplayed the lab leak theory and misled the public, the Daily Mail has reported. International intelligence agencies, including Germany's B&D, now consider a lab leak probable. Washington's Governor Bob Ferguson has activated the National Guard to aid in the search for Travis Decker, a former soldier wanted for the murder and kidnapping of his 3 daughters, whose bodies were found at a campground near Leavenworth. Decker disappeared after failing to return the girls to their mother on June the 2nd. Authorities believe he may be traveling along the Pacific Crest Trail. The manhunt, involving over 100 officers, covers rugged terrain in central Washington, KATU ABC2 has reported. Decker, an experienced outdoorsman with military survival training, is considered armed and dangerous. Multiple trail and recreation areas have been closed as the search intensifies. After launching a fierce and personal attack on President Donald Trump via his Twitter or X account, accusing him of ties to Jeffrey Epstein, calling for his impeachment, and endorsing J.D. Vance for president, Elon Musk abruptly deleted all the inflammatory posts. The online clash sparked widespread media coverage and drew sharp responses from President Trump's allies, including accusations against Musk. Now, only Musk's comments on a bill and his call for a new America party remain, leaving many to wonder if legal pressure caused the sudden cleanup. Showbiz 411 has reported. Pope Leo XIV met with the Argentine President Javier Milei at the Vatican on Saturday. Following their meeting, Milei held talks with top Vatican officials, where they reaffirmed strong bilateral ties and discussed shared concerns, including economic development, poverty reduction, and peace efforts amid global conflicts. The visit follows Malay's attendance at Pope Francis's funeral and Pope Leo XIV's inauguration, the Vatican News has reported. California Governor Gavin Newsom suggested that the state consider withholding its federal tax contributions, over $80 billion annually, in response to reports that President Donald Trump may cut federal funding to California, especially for universities. Newsom and other state leaders criticized the potential cuts as unconstitutional and politically motivated. While the Trump administration denied any final decisions, it did criticize California's policies. Newsom's comments come amid rising tensions with Trump, even as he seeks federal aid for disasters and economic support, Politico has reported. Other Democratic leaders, including Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas, echoed calls to explore withholding taxes as a defense strategy. The White House is disputing a Congressional Budget Office report that claims President Trump's tax and spending package, dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill, would increase the federal deficit by $2.4 trillion over the next decade. The White House argues the CBO's analysis is flawed, assuming Trump's 2017 tax cuts won't be extended. Instead, the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, projects the bill would reduce the deficit by $1.4 trillion, or up to $6.6 trillion when combined with tariffs and other cuts. Critics, including Elon Musk and some GOP senators, oppose the bill, Fox News has reported. The White House also accused the CBO of political bias, despite its director being a Republican appointee. A salmonella outbreak linked to eggs from California-based August Egg Company has sickened 79 people across 7 states, with 21 hospitalized. This is according to the CDC. In response, the company recalled 1.7 million dozen brown, cage-free, and organic eggs sold under various brands at major retailers like Walmart and Safeway. The company has halted fresh egg sales and is now sending eggs to be pasteurized, CNN has reported. The CDC advises consumers to discard or return any recalled eggs to avoid potential illness. U.S. imports plunged 20% in April, the largest monthly drop on record, after President Trump's new wave of tariffs took effect, following a rush by firms to import goods earlier in the year. Imports from China and Canada fell to their lowest levels in years, and the overall goods trade deficit was nearly cut in half. Trump's broad tariffs, now at their highest levels since the 1930s, aim to boost domestic manufacturing and leverage trade negotiations, the BBC has reported. Talks with China are ongoing, but the tariffs have already disrupted global trade, slashing exports to the United States from countries like Mexico and Canada. The U.S. labor market added 139,000 jobs in May, signaling a slowdown from previous months, though still slightly above expectations. The unemployment rate remained at 4.2%, and wages continued to outpace inflation. Revisions lowered March and April's job gains by 95,000, bringing 2025's average monthly job growth to 124,000, its weakest non-recession start in 30 years, CNN has reported. Economists warned the labor market is cooling, not collapsing, as businesses adopt a wait-and-see approach amid economic uncertainty and shifting Trump administration trade policies. President Trump warned Elon Musk of serious consequences if he funds Democrats opposing the GOP's budget bill, escalating their public feud. President Trump said he has no intention of repairing ties with Musk, whom he accused of disrespecting the presidency. Musk had criticized Trump and the bill, even posting, then deleting, calls for Trump's impeachment and highlighting past Epstein links. Trump responded by suggesting canceling Musk's federal contracts, though he hasn't acted on it. And despite the fallout, President Trump remains confident that the bill will pass and claimed the dispute has only strengthened GOP unity, NBC News has reported. Vice President J.D. Vance called Musk's attack a, quote, huge mistake. Palantir CEO Alex Karp warned that the U.S.-China AI arms race will end with one nation dominating, emphasizing the high stakes and dangers of AI. Karp argued the U.S. currently holds the edge, crediting corporate agility and innovation, and said Palantir is central to enhancing national security and efficiency. Amid strong stock gains, up 74% in 2025, he defended the company's valuation and denied claims it surveils Americans, responding to recent media scrutiny, CNBC has reported. A United Kingdom High Court judge warned that lawyers could face prosecution for using unverified AI generated content in legal proceedings after two recent cases involved fake citations. In one, a lawyer cited 18 non existent cases in a £90 million lawsuit, and in another, 5 false cases were submitted in a housing claim. Justice Victoria Sharp called the incidents a serious threat to public trust in the legal system and emphasized that artificial intelligence must be used with proper oversight and adherence to professional standards, the Associated Press has reported. Astronomers using the James Webb Space Telescope have released the largest map of the early universe to date, revealing nearly 800,000 galaxies in an expansive image from the Cosmos Webb Project. This wide-field survey, the largest of the James Webb Space Telescope's first year, stitched together over 10,000 images covering a sky area the width of 3 full moons. The data offers insights into galaxy formation, cosmic environments, and the era that is over 13 billion years ago, Space.com has reported. Alongside the image, a detailed interactive galaxy catalog and multiple scientific papers were published, highlighting James Webb Space Telescope's success in surpassing expectations for deep space observation. NASA's Mars Odyssey orbiter captured a stunning image of a 12-mile-high volcano on Mars, poking through dawn clouds, marking the first time such a view has been seen from the Martian horizon. Taken on May the 2nd, the photo highlights water ice clouds around the mountains during Mars's aphelion. The image helps scientists study seasonal atmospheric changes. Odyssey, launched in 2001, is the longest operating spacecraft orbiting another planet, CBS News has reported. Meanwhile, the Perseverance rover continues exploring the Jezero crater for signs of past life. SpaceX successfully launched the SXM-10 satellite for Sirius XM early Saturday, June the 7th, aboard a Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral. The rocket's first stage landed on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean, marking its 8th reuse. The 14,100-pound satellite, built by Maxar Technologies, will join Sirius XM Broadcasting Network, Space.com has reported. This was SpaceX's 69th Falcon 9 launch in 2025, and the second Sirius XM mission in 6 months. Colombian presidential candidate and Senator Miguel Uribe remains in critical condition after being shot 3 times, twice in the head, during a campaign event in Bogota. A 15-year-old suspect was arrested at the scene with a firearm. Uribe, a right-wing critic of President Gustavo Petro, was rushed into surgery and remains in intensive care. Leaders across Colombia and abroad condemned the attack as a threat to democracy. The motive remains unclear, but the incident comes amid growing political tension and echoes Colombia's violent past, the BBC has reported. An investigation is ongoing. Israel has vowed to block the Madleen aid ship from reaching Gaza, calling it a media stunt. The vessel, part of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, aims to challenge Israel's blockade. Israeli officials warned the attempt is unlawful and undermines humanitarian efforts, CNN has reported. Despite limited aid recently allowed into Gaza, humanitarian groups warn of worsening famine and crisis conditions. A 6.3 magnitude earthquake struck central Colombia early on Sunday, southeast of Bogota. No casualties were reported. The earthquake was followed by smaller tremors, and authorities are assessing the impact. People in Bogota felt the shaking, but early reports indicate no damage, ABC News has reported. Colombia is located in the seismically active Pacific Ring of Fire. Russia claims its forces have advanced to the edge of Ukraine's Dnipro region, amid intensified fighting and growing tensions over stalled peace talks and the return of war dead. Moscow has seized over 190 square kilometers of northeastern Ukraine in recent weeks and continues pushing west from Donetsk. Ukraine says its forces are holding the line and accused Russia of playing politics with prisoner and body exchanges. Meanwhile, Russia demands recognition of its territorial claims, while Ukraine refuses to concede, Reuters has reported. U.S. officials warn of possible large-scale Russian retaliation for recent Ukrainian attacks inside Russia. A skydiving plane carrying 20 people crashed shortly after takeoff from a regional airport in Tennessee on Sunday. Several people were injured, with 4 taken to hospitals, 3 by helicopter and 1 by ambulance, while others were treated at the scene. No fatalities or ground injuries were reported. The de Havilland DH-6 Twin Otter plane struck trees and terrain due to an unknown issue, Fox News reported. The FAA and the NTSB are investigating, and residents are urged to avoid the area. Tropical storm Barbara is strengthening off Mexico's Pacific coast and could become a hurricane by Monday. This is according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center. The storm has 65-mile-per-hour winds and is moving west to northwest. While it's expected to stay at sea, heavy rain may cause flooding and mudslides in parts of western Mexico, the Associated Press reported. Coastal areas may also face dangerous surf and rip currents. Ed the zebra, a runaway pet that became an internet sensation, has been safely captured in Tennessee after more than a week on the loose. Authorities found him in a pasture near a subdivision in Christiana and airlifted him by helicopter to an animal trailer. Ed had escaped on May the 31st and was seen running along Interstate 24, prompting a road closure. Social media lit up with sightings and humorous memes during the search, The Guardian reported. His capture follows a similar incident back in April involving a runaway kangaroo in Alabama. Severe storms swept across the southern United States over the weekend, killing 2 people and knocking out power to nearly 150,000 residents from Texas to South Carolina. Both fatalities occurred when trees fell on vehicles in Mississippi and Georgia. The storms brought heavy rain, strong winds, hail, and tornadoes, including an EF1 tornado in Arkansas, the Associated Press reported. More severe weather is expected Sunday and Monday, with damaging winds, large hail, and possible tornadoes forecasted for parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Tensions flared in Los Angeles on Sunday as protests erupted over President Trump's deployment of the National Guard amid an immigration crackdown. Thousands blocked freeways, set self-driving cars on fire, and clashed with police using tear gas and rubber bullets. The unrest centered in downtown, with demonstrators targeting federal facilities. California's Governor Gavin Newsom and LA's Mayor Karen Bass condemned the federal intervention as a violation of their state's sovereignty. Over 100 immigrants were arrested in recent raids, sparking the outrage. President Trump defended the move, citing unrest, and warned of broader troop deployments, the Associated Press reported. The situation remains volatile, with continued protest and a federal presence. A 21-year-old Seattle man, Earl Anderson Riley IV, has been charged with multiple burglaries targeting homes of high-profile athletes, including Major League Baseball and NFL stars. Riley is accused of leading a series of thefts that began in February, stealing over $300,000 in luxury items from homes belonging to Mariners players and former Seahawks star Richard Sherman. He also allegedly targeted homes of Dodgers pitcher Blake Snell and Hall of Famer Edgar Martinez. Riley is being held on $1 million bail, with his arraignment set for June 16th, CBS News has reported. The case is part of a broader trend of professional athletes being targeted in home burglaries across the United States. Polls opened in Italy for a 2-day referendum on citizenship and labor law reforms, triggered by an NGO-led campaign requiring 500,000 signatures. Over 51 million Italians can vote, but results are only binding if turnout exceeds 50%. The key question asked whether to reduce the residency requirement for citizenship from 10 to 5 years, easing access for children born to non-EU parents. Supporters say this helps integration and aligns Italy with other European countries, benefiting 2.5 million people. Voters will also decide on worker protections and contract reforms. The center-left backs the referendum, while Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's right-wing government opposes it, encouraging their supporters to abstain to block the 50% turnout threshold, the DW has reported. Turnout is expected to be about 35%, which is well below what's needed for the reforms to pass. Pope Leo XIV condemned the rise of nationalist political movements during Sunday Mass at St. Peter's Square, calling for reconciliation, dialogue, and an end to indifference and hatred. Without naming any specific country, he urged breaking down barriers and fostering love instead of exclusion. Echoing late Pope Francis, he emphasized global connectedness despite growing disconnection. The Pope also condemned ongoing wars, praying for peace in hearts, families, and nations, Politico has reported. Since his election, Pope Leo has made peace a central focus of his papacy, including calls for justice in Ukraine and a ceasefire in Gaza. The validity of Poland's recent presidential election will now be decided by the Supreme Court after reviewing a report from the National Electoral Commission and any protests submitted by June the 16th. Official results show that Karol Nawrocki won narrowly with 50.89% of the vote against Rafał Trzaskowski's 49.11%. But over 160,000 people have signed an online petition demanding a full vote recount due to the close margin, many invalid votes, and reported irregularities, such as swapped results in some polling stations. Now authorities are investigating these issues, while the Prime Minister Donald Tusk has urged calm, stating that all reported irregularities are being checked and that the premature claims of rigging harmed the country, Euronews has reported. Supporters of the incumbent president also dismissed the allegations as attempts to undermine the election. President Donald Trump announced on Truth Social that he has ordered the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Defense to help control civil unrest during ICE raids in Los Angeles. He vowed to, quote, liberate Los Angeles from what he called a, quote, migrant invasion and violent protest against deportation efforts. In response to the unrest, President Trump deployed 2,000 National Guard troops to support ICE operations, Breitbart News has reported. Democrats, including California's Governor Gavin Newsom, condemned the move as an unnecessary escalation and then urged peaceful protests. China's consumer prices fell for the fourth straight month in May, dropping 0.1% year on year as stimulus efforts have yet to boost domestic demand. A price war in the auto sector and falling property prices added downward pressure. Producer prices also declined sharply, with factory gate deflation deepening to 3.5%. Now, despite strong exports, economists warn that China must rely more on domestic consumption to fight deflation. Recent policy measures include interest rate cuts and reserve requirement reductions, while U.S.-China trade tensions remain unresolved despite a partial tariff rollback, CNBC has reported. Markets await potential further monetary easing and key financial policy announcement at an upcoming forum in Shanghai. Midea is recalling 1.7 million U-window and U-plus window air conditioners due to a drainage issue that can cause mold growth, posing health risks like respiratory infections. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has received 152 reports of mold buildup, including 17 cases with related health symptoms. The recall covers units sold in the United States and Canada under various brand names, including Frigidaire and Danby, sold between March 2020 and May of 2025 at retailers like Best Buy and Home Depot, CBS News has reported. Affected owners can get a full refund or free repair by contacting Midea with options for returning the unit or submitting proof of disabling it. California's Governor Gavin Newsom announced that the state will sue the Trump administration over its deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles without California's consent. Newsom called the federal takeover of the state guard illegal, unconstitutional, and done without coordination with the governor. He then criticized President Trump for escalating tensions and spreading misinformation about the guard's role. Governor Newsom also challenged border czar Tom Homan's threat to arrest him or LA Mayor Karen Bass, saying, quote, "Come after me, arrest me," The Hill reported. "Let's just get it over with," Newsom said. The U.S. population is aging rapidly, with the median age now 38.9, and adults over 65 expected to rise from 58 million to 82 million by the year 2050. Falls remain a leading cause of injury among seniors, prompting MIT engineers to develop eBar, a mobile robot designed to support elderly users and prevent falls at home. Unlike bulky wearables, eBar is a set of robotic handlebars that follow users, offering physical assistance and an integrated airbag system that cushions falls without requiring the user to wear special gear. The robot's design allows natural movement and easy home navigation. Still just a prototype, eBar aims to automate fall detection and adaptive support through artificial intelligence, Fox News has reported. With a user-centered approach, it promises a non-intrusive, effective solution to help seniors maintain independence and safety, potentially transforming elder care in the coming decade. NASA's Parker Solar Probe has captured unprecedented data of a powerful plasma explosion moving toward the sun's surface, revealing protons with energy levels 1,000 times higher than expected. This event, caused by a, quote, magnetic reconnection, where the sun's magnetic fields break and reconnect, accelerates charged particles and fuels the solar wind. Understanding this process is crucial for predicting space weather, which can disrupt satellites, GPS, power grids, and even agriculture on Earth. Parker, the first spacecraft to enter the sun's corona, provides detailed measurements to improve space weather models, Live Science reported. Now, these insights come amid an active solar cycle, with the probe continuing its close flybys and contributing to hundreds of scientific studies since its launch.